Hey everyone, my name is Zach. I'm a 23-year-old competitive boulderer from Canada, currently living in Montreal. Welcome back to the COMPCLIMB training series, where I record most of my training, provide in-depth analysis of every session, and just chat about climbing with an emphasis on competition. So here we are climbing at Allez Up, the Mile End location. And if you recall, in the last episode, I mentioned how I was about to start my rest week, and I indeed had that rest week. It was 4 days long, and so this is going to be our first day of training back after the rest. So it's actually been kind of a little while since I've had a rest week. That's just kind of how the training, like how the program was planned out. So this rest week kind of hit me extra hard because my body wasn't so used to it. So this first session here we're gonna have ends up being like super chill. Also here, let's check this out, a funny moment coming up. I just remembered, watch my right hand as I'm pulling up. So we have a nice little too much skin dry fire, and that usually happens to me on the first session after rest week. I'll have like a bit too much skin built up, which is it is a very big change of pace from what you've been hearing me talk about on the channel recently. What in God's name is Zach doing talking about having too much skin? Just because we've been having pink tips for a lot of the training recently, and it's been really difficult to manage. And now I find myself having too much skin, which was a pretty funky change of pace. But yeah, it usually just lasts for like a session. I find my tips are kind of like glassy and thick and are susceptible to like slipping off of a hold at any second. And usually, even by the second session in the day, it's kind of like perfect by session 2, day 1 after a rest week. But yeah, I was definitely feeling quite a lot of rust coming off of this rest week. And like my joints were super sore and stiff, and I felt like I had to be very careful to not tweak something. My fingers felt a bit at risk, even my shoulders, and actually my hamstrings a lot. So I think, yeah, like I kind of used this working jug to bail out of this position. I end up doing this a few times throughout the day, grabbing jugs to like bail out of a position where my body doesn't feel so secure, just because I feel a bit tweaky coming off of rest week. And it's always important to be like extra careful on the first couple days back of training. And this is kind of like the bit of the sacrifice that I have to make when I have rest weeks so often. I feel like I have rest weeks more often than most other climbers. I try to do them at least like once a month. I'll take about a 5-day rest week. And while it does help physically a lot of the time, I definitely take more rest weeks than are necessarily needed for like an intense training program. And it's actually because my rest weeks are probably more mental rest weeks than physical. Like I said, they are definitely very useful for recovery and obviously giving our body time to heal the muscles that we've been breaking down so that they can actually get stronger. And, training is training, but we don't actually see the strength gains until we rest and let our muscles like actually build back up and get stronger. But I probably rest more than I need to actually do that. And yeah, like I said, it is more mental. I find that taking a full week off of climbing, like once a month, helps me like really have a sustainable mindset towards training, and really helps me not burn out. And it's like super refreshing. I find I'm just like itching to go back and climb after a rest week, and that's always such a good feeling, instead of having to be like, oh man, I gotta go to the gym, grind out this session. I'd rather stay home today, having rest weeks once a month really eliminates this sort of feeling, which is very, very useful. So I'm back refreshed after the rest week and ready to tackle Alley Up, which is full of brand new boulders for me. The whole gym has been reset since the last time I climbed here. And yeah, full of like super sick boulders. And this gym is also kind of a perfect gym for this day one session because I was aware that they didn't have too many like super hard boulders. Mainly a lot of moderates with like one or two like hard stuff, which meant that it was perfect for me to climb at this gym and like without the opportunity to get carried away. Like let's say I went to a gym with a bunch of hard boulders or a bunch of like, projects. I'd like to say I could control myself and try to take it easy coming off of rest week, but sometimes I just can't. And not allowing myself to have any of those boulders in my vicinity just eliminates the opportunity for me to go too hard for the first session, for the first couple sessions of a rest week. And so yeah, Alley Up ends up having like the perfect boulders that I need to really get my body going again. Nothing like too physically intense, just like a lot of movement-based boulders, really get the body activated. Alley Up is kind of like the perfect gym coming off of rest week, and this isn't the first time that I've trained here for day one on after rest week. So also it's taken me a bit of a while to get to something fun going on during the session, and that is that I am sporting some new shoes. So I'm wearing the Tomoe Narisaki Pros right now, and it's funny, I bumped into an Unparallel rep probably a couple weeks ago at this point, and he was like looking for some people, and we got to talking. And long story short, he sent me some shoes to test out to see what I think of Unparallel, and the first ones I'm going to try are these Tomoe Narisaki Pros. So I used to wear the high angles, like the 510 high angle Pros, before I was wearing the Instinct VSRs. And I think the high angle Pros were like some of my favorite shoes ever, if not my favorite. But as I'm sure many of you know, the high angles are becoming like impossible to find nowadays. And I guess it's because there's been problems with Adidas or something. I'm not exactly sure. But I have not been able to find the high angle Pros anywhere. So for those who don't know, I guess I should mention a lot of the shoe designers that were working for 510 left 510 and went and started the Unparallel brand, if I'm not mistaken. And this is because of like, I guess 510 working with Adidas, it wasn't in the direction that I guess some of the shoe designers wanted to go. I could just be pulling this out of my butt. This is my understanding of the situation. So the long story short is the Unparallel shoe brand has a lot of the designers that were working for 510, I believe. I could be wrong though. And so that just leads me to the point of Unparallel having similar functioning shoes as the 510 shoes, which I really loved in the past, and especially the high angles. So I was asking the rep like what a good shoe that was similar to the high angles would be, and he said the Tomoe Narisaki Pros would be a good one to start with. So I decided to give these a try, and this whole couple days of training, you're gonna notice we're getting on a lot of like footwork intensive boulders. And here's a good example. You see me kind of messing around on just this last foothold of this boulder. I was really taking the time in these sessions to really try and learn these shoes and learn the different sensations and try and figure out the best ways to kind of, angle my toe when I go to step on a foothold. Like, where is the most powerful part of the edge? All of these things that you kind of have to learn when operating a new climbing shoe. It's like anything. It's like, driving a car you're not used to, or if you rent a car, it takes a while to get the hang of the subtleties. And so you'll notice I'm getting on kind of a lot of more softer boulders than I normally would. And this isn't just because of the day one off of rest week. It's also because, like I said, we're getting on a lot of footwork intensive boulders, and I'm really trying to step on every different kind of foothold that I possibly can and test out all the different positions of these shoes and really get a good feel for them. And another reason for this is because we're not that far away from my North American Cup event. And so I don't know if this is enough time for me to really learn a new shoe and commit to saying, okay, I want this new pair of shoes to be my comp shoes. So I'm trying to speed up the process of learning these shoes as fast as possible by trying a whole different bunch of boulders to see if I can learn them in time for the first North American Cup. And if I can't learn them in time, then I will just stick with the VSRs for the first event. But yeah, I am learning these shoes, trying to figure out all the different subtleties. And so we've been getting on a lot of different footwork styles. And yeah, the first impression of the shoes is really good. You have to stick with a shoe for at least probably a couple weeks, in my opinion, to really determine what you think of a shoe, because a brand new shoe is not going to compare to the same model, a few weeks later when you really break it in. So I always try to take how the shoe is feeling with a grain of salt on the first couple sessions that I climb with it. But let's think of some first impressions. The first couple impressions of the Tomoe Narasaki Pros, they are nice and sensitive, which I really like. It's kind of like a stiff shoe, but that's very sensitive, which is not what I've been used to in a while. I find the VSRs are very stiff and not very sensitive. So these shoes are stiff and sensitive, which is interesting. They are definitely quite similar to the high angle pros, the 510 high angles, with just some slight differences. I find the fit is just a bit different, but the toe and the edging is very similar to the 510 high angles. I find that the edging on these shoes, so the toes are a little bit pointier than the VSRs. So it's actually really taking me a while to get used to this style of shoe coming off of the VSRs. And this has happened to me a lot in the past as well. When I was trying to switch back to the La Sportiva solution after wearing the VSRs for a while, I found that it took me so long, and it got to the point where I couldn't even do it. I couldn't even climb in the solutions after not climbing in that super pointy toe style of shoe for a while. I felt a weird disconnect in the edging ability. And so that's kind of I was feeling that just a little bit today with these sessions. This Unparallel shoe, the Narasaki Pros are not as pointy toed as the Solutions are. The Solutions are kind of known for that. So they're kind of in between the Solution pointiness of the toe and the VSR's not very pointy toe. So I found that I was having to really adapt to this style of edging, and it was hard to trust some footholds. I have to learn how to apply pressure optimally with this style of edge, and it's just a matter of time. If I put a lot of reps in with these shoes for a couple weeks, all of a sudden I'll get accustomed to these shoes and it will be no problem. And I'm kind of a believer that with enough time and commitment, anybody can wear any shoe and it can work for them. I'm sure not everyone will agree with this idea. Like maybe there are definitely some shoes that will just maybe some people like really can't get behind and won't work for them. But at least for me, I feel like if I wore any shoe for like 3 weeks, I would be able to learn it, get used to it, and I could be comfortable in that shoe. And that's just my opinion. But there are definitely advantages of like if you really, really believe in a shoe, and there are some just little tips and tricks of the shoe that really work well for you, that mental edge and placebo is going to make a physical difference. So that is definitely worth taking into account. And that was kind of like what I had with the 510 High Angle Pros. They just felt so good on my feet, and that mental boost made like a physical difference. So that's why I'm psyched to try Unparallel and hopefully find some shoes that do a similar thing. Because like I said, Unparallel is a similar designed shoes to 510. So in the meantime, we've been doing a lot of different boulders. This one that we are trying now is probably the hardest one that I ended up sending in the gym. And I think it's on this try too. This boulder is an absolute 10 star. Like this thing, this is like, just like perfect Allez Up style right here. They do a really nice job of setting like amazing boulders with just like holds. That sounds stupid. But it's not like there's any crazy like volume stacks on this boulder. No features that are too fancy. Like I guess we have the dimension volumes for the feet, but I don't know, that boulder was a very nice one set by Guillaume, the head setter. That one was like one of the most fun boulders I've done in a while. It had some really cool movements and was also really accessible to me today on this first day after rest week, because I found that even by session 2, which is the session we're having now, my fingers were still really sore, and I couldn't crimp anything near the best of my abilities. And so that boulder was nice and slopey and allowed me to try hard in it without risk of hurting myself. And same sort of thing with this boulder here. And yeah, I guess I haven't mentioned yet. Yeah, like I was feeling obviously really rusty in this first day of training. The morning session, I'd call like a 4 out of 10 in terms of strength and how I was feeling. And this session was maybe like a 5.5. It definitely got better by the second session, even just throughout the first day. But I definitely felt like this rest week was hitting me harder than usual. Sometimes, even after like a 6-day rest week, by session 2 on day 1, I will be feeling like completely back to normal. And there have been a couple examples of this in the past where I was like feeling so good on session 1, day 1, back after a 6-day rest week. So yeah, it was really weird how this rest week was hitting me hard, because it was only 4 days, and here we are at session 2 feeling pretty stiff and rusty and susceptible to tweaks, especially in the fingers. But that's why I am very particular with how I plan my rest weeks in regards to the competitions. Right, so I very strategically planned this rest week to be like, I think it's like 2.5 weeks out from the North American Cup. So that way it's kind of like the perfect time to get me nice and rested and fresh feeling, but also far away enough from the comp to give me enough time to really get back into the groove of training, maybe get some hard sends in, have a few try hard sessions, and then taper down the volume for like a week to get nice and fresh and have my skin healed, and just be not like sore and tired from training. And then bam, there's the comp timed perfectly. So that's kind of how I go about scheduling my rest weeks and my program. So this rest week was very strategically placed, which is why I'm not too nervous or upset to be feeling so bad like this far before competition. Because I know after doing this for so long that my body just goes through its, usual rhythm. And this week is about getting back to 100% fitness. Week 2 is kind of like, having some nice try hard sessions, getting some good try hard training in. And then week 3, we're gonna taper down the volume, get nice and fresh and feeling fresh and peaked, and then the comp. So that's why this rest week is where it is. So here we are the next day for another session of bouldering at Allez Up. I was kind of hoping to feel better today, obviously. Usually by day 2 after a rest week, I'll be feeling good. And so I was kind of disappointed to not have made too much progress since yesterday's session. Yesterday's session 2, I'd probably call a 5.5 out of 10. And this one was probably the same, probably 5.5. This boulder here is definitely really hard, but my fingers and joints were like just not even existent. I was like, even just grabbing these 2 holds here, my joints were like burning, and I could tell that I couldn't try too hard on this boulder. But like even under normal circumstances, these holds are really bad. And so this thing would be hard to climb. But I tried to kind of put some attempts on. If for nothing else, I would at least be kind of warming up my fingers and getting them moving again and grabbing finger intensive holds. That way, my body comes back fast after this rest week. And the more crimps I grab, while being careful, of course, the faster my crimp strength will return. So that was the logic to why I kind of put a few more attempts on that boulder, even though it clearly was hopeless. And so that's sort of the same idea with this boulder here, why I'm trying this very fingery boulder. And it also looked quite footwork intensive, and I thought it would be nice to test out the shoes on these kind of bad footholds. But this was kind of the point where I'd put so many reps in on some crimps while my fingers were not feeling good. Now all of a sudden my joints were actually okay, they're hurting now. And you can see I'm realizing I can't even pull onto this boulder again. So I knew that I had done all of the crimping that I was capable of in this day of training. And I decided to move on to some slopey boulders and boulders that were not too intensive on the grip. So here we are moving on to this boulder. And this boulder I think will feature a nice fun little tip of the day. And I had a comment on a recent video as well saying that it would be nice if I could include kind of like a freeze frame of what the actual position of whatever tip of the day we're talking about is. And this person really hit the nail on the head. This is a great idea. I should have been doing this all along. And I'll always be taking recommendations for how I can improve the videos. Any little things you notice I can do better. Anytime anyone will think of something, please drop it in the comments. And if it's easy enough or convenient enough for me to do, I'll definitely try to improve the quality of the videos for the viewers. And recommendations are always much appreciated. So yeah, we are going to start featuring kind of the actual position that we're going to be trying to think about and visualize while we're talking about our tip of the day, which is a good idea, like I said. So this tip of the day is one that I have been waiting to get off. This is I love when this happens on a boulder, and I find that it can really be helpful. I feel like I haven't done it in a while either, so it's been taking a while to get this one off. So on this boulder, this move kind of just helped me a little bit. I feel like it wasn't imperative to the sequence, but it just gave me that little extra bit of support to get through kind of the crux move. And so this tip of the day is going to be kind of pressing with your hand on your knee. And so I'm sure this won't be brand new to a lot of people. This one is definitely a fun one that you'll see a lot of pros do sometimes in comp style boulders. And yeah, like I said, I really like this one because it can be a game changer on a lot of moves. So in this position, you can see that I kind of have to press out of this right hand hold that I'm mantling off. And basically the move we're doing is we're going to double clutch into these two slopers. And so while I'm pressing off of my right hand, it's putting like a lot of pressure on my left leg. And in theory, if I was strong enough just in my tricep and my left leg, I could just press my way into this position and stand all the way up. But sometimes we're just not strong enough. And in this position, I felt like it was just too much pressure and I was really struggling to push with my left leg enough to stand all the way up. So what I do is I take my left hand and it doesn't even have to be your hand. It can actually be your forearm or your elbow. Any part of your arm will get you this effect. So I think I take my forearm and I am pressing on top of my kind of quad, so on my left leg. And what this does is it kind of just acts like another climbing hold. So now all of a sudden, instead of pressing with one arm and one leg and not being strong enough in this position, we basically add an arm to this movement. So now we're pressing off of two arms and a leg. And that obviously, instead of using two limbs to try and get through this strengthy move, now we have an extra. 3 limbs is better than 2. And so it's making up for our lack of strength in this scenario. And you can even, it almost creates an effect of adding another climbing hold. So let's think about this move. Like if we had 2 holds to mantle off and a foot, it would be a lot easier than just having one. So we basically turn our knee into another climbing hold. So yeah, this one is great for, I guess I would say that it's usually when it's a mantle, like when you're pressing off of a hold and you're stepping, like just sort of this scenario here where we are mantling out of position and it's hard to really press and with our tricep and our leg at the same time. But actually I had a really cool instance of this movement a long time ago. I'm gonna dig through my archive really quick. I'm gonna see if I can pull up the clip of this. If I did find it, you're seeing it on the screen right now, I'm sure. But I did this move where I basically jump into a gassed on position and that position was too intense to hold. So I end up palming my knee at the same time in order to get some opposition and more pressure and basically create another climbing hold. And it was like one of the sickest climbing moves I've ever done. I hope I find the clip and you're seeing it on the screen right now. But yeah, this is a super awesome technique that you can look for on your boulders, and the knee press. It is a really good one, so try out this tip of the day. It's a lot of fun. So anyway, here we are back on this boulder. And check out this hold that we're matching and going off of to the right hand. I'm very familiar with this position. So that's like the exact same hold from the white boulder that we did at Beta Block in the last episode, like the super hard project that I sent. That's like the same hold and the same orientation. Oh, and you'll notice I'm doing the knee press there. But yeah, it was like the same hold, same orientation, same sort of layback match. I was getting PTSD to that boulder on this hold. And so actually on this attempt, I am like, I don't want to do that move anymore. So I kind of just press and do some different beta. But yeah, this boulder was a lot of fun. Nice technical boulder. And here I think on this attempt, I think I'd use like my forearm to press on my knee rather than my hand. Yeah, you can see that there's a lot of different ways that you can apply this technique to boulders. It doesn't just have to be your hand, it can be your forearm or elbow or any sort of thing. But it's always cool and useful when you can sort of use your own limbs as climbing holds sometimes. And yeah, just go like, I bet if you do like a Google search or a YouTube search of Adam Ondra using his own body as climbing holds, you'll learn a lot of different ways that you can use this kind of technique and philosophy, because he sort of pioneers a lot of these movements. And so here we are moving on to another boulder. I was very interested to try this boulder actually. I was like very, very interested because this was going to be a good test of the shoe's smearing capabilities. So like I was saying earlier, I was going to take this test with a grain of salt because this is still day 1 of these shoes, right? So here I kind of actually was slipping around a bit and felt quite unstable in the smear. And I think it felt like it was sort of the new shoe failing on a smear, not the design of the shoes. And so I was trying to keep that in mind because any shoe on day one wouldn't be able to do this sort of volume smear really effectively because they would be too stiff. So I was trying to, keep that in mind while I was testing out the smear. And I was really trying to figure out if I can use these shoes in a similar way to the VSRs and how I've been using them previously. So for those who have been around for a while, you'll know how I like to use my kind of full foot position, where I use the inside edge, like all the way along my foot, to smear on a volume like this, as you can see I'm doing now. And so I found that it was definitely a bit different feeling in these shoes. I wasn't getting quite the same sensation that I usually do in the VSRs when I'm in that position. And it feels very solid in the VSRs when I use this kind of technique. And so anyway, a small realization I had with these shoes is I have to kind of angle my foot a little bit less sideways and a bit more diagonal. This is kind of hard to see as well. I think it's more just how I think about it and the sensation that I feel in my foot. But I find I do a bit more of so let's say instead of my foot being completely parallel to the wall, like I would do with the VSRs, I basically turn my toe a little bit inwards towards the wall and make more of a diagonal smear. And that's a position that these shoes feel a bit more secure in. Now that being said, before I continue with this thought, I just want to shout out this boulder. This is the new set of Allez Up. They were setting yesterday, so I didn't get a chance to get on these boulders in yesterday's day of training because they were setting them. And Ritsuka was like, "Hey Zach, what boulder should I set? I'm setting a comp style red." And I said, "Toe catch," because I need to work on them. And so she did a nice job with this toe catch, and it took me a few tries to figure it out. So thanks to Ritsuka for helping me work on my weaknesses. But yeah, what was I thinking? Oh, yeah, what I was gonna say was, while these shoes are still too new to properly, test the smearing capabilities, I could already tell that just sort of a straight on smear. Also, I'm just kind of trying an eliminate of this boulder. I'm trying to not use the other little triangle to do the toe catch, but I end up kind of just sticking the hold on its own. But yeah, that's just kind of what I was trying on this attempt here. Anyway, the point I was trying to make was that these shoes are gonna be, I think, really good for dead on smearing, and they already feel a bit better than the Instincts did. Part of the reason that I used my full foot position with the Instinct VSRs was because I didn't love the shoes for just straight on smearing on volumes without using a full foot position. And actually we're gonna see it on the end of this boulder, just a straight on sort of smear. So in this position, not this position, this position here where I'm just kind of straight on smearing with both my feet, these shoes I already could tell were feeling better than the Instincts would. The Instincts feel a bit too slippery when I'm in this position, which is why I turn my foot sideways and go full foot. But these shoes, even being brand new, I could tell were just built for this position. Obviously these are the Tomoe Narasaki Pros, and he is a comp boulderer who is constantly finding himself smearing on volumes in that position. So it is not surprising that these shoes are really designed well for just straight on smearing on volumes. And so they were feeling super solid in that position, and I can't wait until they're a bit more broken in so I can see just how good they are. But yeah, overall, the first impressions of the shoes were quite good. There was nothing that I was oh man, I don't like this about these shoes. And so I definitely will be sticking with these for a few more sessions, see how they end up feeling when they're broken in. But actually, another pair of shoes I want to try are the Qubit. I told the rep, I was like, yeah, let's try the Tomoe Narasaki Pros, since he said they were similar to the high angles. But then I went and I was looking on the site more. I also like the look of the Qubit, and I want to try those soon next as well. And I'll probably try the Narasaki Pros and the Qubits for like a good couple months before I try any other shoes. So yeah, hopefully I can try the Cubits next soon. But I do definitely like the Narasaki Pros. First impression is good. Anyway, I thought it was quite fun to take advantage of this opportunity and really talk shoes, because I haven't really done that a lot on this channel before. I kind of just have talked a little bit about the VSRs that I've been wearing for a while, but nothing too crazy or in depth. But yeah, I have a lot of opinions on shoes. Like, I'm actually quite a princess when it comes to my climbing shoes, and I can talk about shoes forever and like really in depth. And so as we're testing some shoes going forward, I'd definitely be psyched to talk more about how I'm feeling about the shoes. If that's something that you guys find interesting, if it's sort of like maybe you'd rather hear about the boulders more and are not interested in the shoes, I can also do that. But yeah, let me know if you're interested in hearing more about what I think about these shoes, because it's definitely a lot of fun to talk about them. And this is later in the day. I'm doing my hangs. Thankfully, my joints had recovered quite a lot from the first session. I was actually able to have a quite surprisingly good hangboard session. 100 pounds isn't like super heavy compared to what we have been doing previously, but it was like a good starting point coming off of rest week. Usually I have to go like super light with the first session, but 100 pounds was a pretty good start, and I can start pushing the weight a bit more as we go forward. And yeah, I guess I should take a quick second to mention as well. So right now I'm like not affiliated with UNPARALLEL. I was chatting to the rep, and there's definitely some potential for me and even Maddie to join the team going forward. So we'll see how that develops. But like when we do talk about shoes on this channel and like the shoes I'm wearing, I'm definitely gonna keep it real. Like I'm gonna keep it 100%. And I definitely want to give like genuine feedback. And if I do join the UNPARALLEL team and we have some affiliation, it would be very exciting, because I was on the cusp of actually buying some UNPARALLEL shoes myself and making the switch from the VSRs literally right before I ran into this rep. So if we do join the UNPARALLEL team, it is because I really like the shoes and I do believe in them. So we'll see how that develops going forward, but maybe it won't actually evolve into anything, and I just might end up testing some shoes and then, okay, Zach, maybe you're not a fit for the team, but we'll see how that develops going forward. So anyway, that wraps up a couple fun days of training at Allez Up. Have a rest day tomorrow, and then I think we're gonna go climb at Roseblock in the next episode, so you can look forward to that. Insert catchy video outro here.